Hello everyone, it's Amy and welcome back for week 6 of the new Build Your Stash and Craft. So for this week we had bought a hole punch, some masking tape, and some PVA glue, which is just kids glue, white glue, Elmer's glue, whatever you want to call it. So, but this is what we got for this week. So we're going to get started, and also we are going to do a little bit more with last week's because there was a few things that I said that I would show you that I did not. So we're also going to do a little bit there, and I'm going to show you how the stamps look with paint because I didn't get that far either because I ran out of time. So to start with, I have a piece of a Menards bag here. It's just a plastic bag. And you can use any kind. I like this one because it's just a little bit thicker than a Walmart bag. So if you have one that's a little thicker than a Walmart bag, I think it would work better. Whether that's the truth or not, I don't know. So, and then we are going to make our own faux washi tape. And so with our masking tape, what we're going to do, and I noticed that this masking tape, it really kind of kept tearing on an angle. So take it slow when you're ripping it off. If you rip it fast, it may not rip nice and straightly. It might rip right off. So the first thing you do once you get it started is fold a little tab over at the top. So just take the very beginning of it and just fold it over so you have a little tab there. That way you have something to get a hold of when you're trying to take it off your plastic. Makes it easier. And then you're just going to tear a length as long as you want it. I normally tear it about as long as whatever I have to put it on. If you have parchment at home, you can also put it on parchment paper. It works really well on parchment paper. So now that I've torn that off, before I let this go, I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to fold the next bit down. And I do that always just so it's easier to get it off instead of having to peel it off every time. And then what I'm going to do before I stick it on my plastic, I'm just going to stick it on my shirt or your pants or your arm or whatever you want to, just to kind of get it, take off just a touch of the stick. Washi tape is a removable tape. And so this, and also it will make it so it doesn't stick to your bag as hard also. And then you're just going to put it down there. So we'll put one more down there. So again, we've already got our tab on it. So we're just going to tear it about the same length. Normally the way that I do this is I will fill up the bag and from top to bottom, and then do that much all at one time. So, and again, I'm going to de-stickify it a little bit. And, oops, had a little bit of crumbs on there of some sort, so I want those off of there. And then I leave a little bit of a gap. You don't have to. You can put them right next to each other or very close to each other. And we're going to stamp on these. So the closer they are, the less of your stamp you waste. But if you're going to paint them and you want them all to be different colors, if you give yourself about 1/4 of an inch, you can keep your colors separate. So, you can do it either way. You can do it so that, you start with red and orange and, just kind of blend your colors all the way down as you're going and not care if it gets from this one to this one. Or if you want to make sure that they're separate, then just make sure you leave a little bit of a gap. So we're going to do that all the way down. And then once you get that done, I'm not going to do the whole thing right now because we might as well, that would just take a while. But then you just decide what it is that you want to put on there for color. You can use your markers or you can use paint. You can use whatever you have for color. And so we're just going to use a little bit of paint. And let's go with some yellow. You can mix your paints. And the thing is with your paints is, remember, don't put too much on there because you don't want to waste it. So just little tiny dots. You can always add more, but you can't take it away. You can take it away. You'll have to when you're done. If there's too much, you need to thin it out a little bit or it will just kind of like crack on there, I would imagine. So we're just going to use the paintbrushes that we bought. last week, and then just spread it around. Now, if you don't want to have the whole thing one solid color, you can go ahead and put your colors on a palette. And what I use for a palette is just the lid of, this is the lid off an oatmeal jug. And and then just paint your tape until you get it all covered. You don't have to paint up on the part that you're going to use to get it off, because you're not going to be able to use that part. You will have to get rid of that when you use it. Well, you never know. You might decide you want that to stick up on whatever it is you're making. It just won't stick down. So, and if you find that it's not sticking the way you want it to, when you go to put it on something, you can put a little bit of glue underneath of it. A lot of people do that with their washi tape. And you just keep going until you get all of your tape covered. Now, another thing, especially when you're first starting out, I didn't have a whole bunch extra here, but I do still have paint on my brush. So then what I do is I just take a piece of paper, and I'm just going to take my brush. It's a nice thin brush, so I'm going to hold it kind of sideways, and I'm just going to go like this on my paper. Now, that it's not making much in the way of lines, because I didn't hardly have any left. So now I'm going to take the flat part and get rid of that too, especially since I didn't get any nice little lines on there. I mean, I did, and it's very light, and I don't know if you can see it at all, but here's last time. I wound up with a little bit more yellow the last time, and, you know, I just took it this way. With the yellow, I think I did all of it this way. You know, with the ones that are thinner, I used the brush sideways and just went like this. And I did kind of stop and look to, like, where do I want to swish this one? So that I had some nice, it wasn't just a total disastrous mess. That sometimes looks nice too, but, you know, if you're trying to build yourself up some painty papers, you know, do it kind of in a bit of a form like this. And it's, by the time you get to your next color, it's already dry. So when you do your next color, it doesn't mix and get all muddy. But that's just what you're going to do. And again, I wish you could see this because it does have some color on it, but you know, you just want to do that and then rinse it with your water. That way you're also not winding up with a bunch of paint in your water, because acrylic paint is plastic. And so you want to be careful about washing that down your sink. A lot of people say it doesn't make any difference, and maybe it doesn't. I've done this for a long time, and I've had a few times where my sinks have clogged up, and I do think part of it is my problem, you know, because of the paint, but maybe not. Maybe it's just something else. But, you know, it doesn't hurt to try and do something else with it, or at least not get a whole ton of this plastic paint in your sink. So, you know, I live in the country, so a lot of times I will just, and I'm going to put just a little dot of orange on here and kind of show you what I mean about the swishy marks. So I do just kind of throw it in the woods. Somebody said once that that's, you know, a really bad thing to do, and I'm polluting the earth, but actually I live in the country, so I have a septic system. So all the water that's going through my sink is going out into the ground anyways. So either way, it's going to wind up in the ground, but at least it's not going through my drain. And so I am just going to, I'm just taking the tip of my brush and going sideways, and it gives you a nice, cute little thin line. So then we'll put a little bit of red on here. Just a dot. And I'm not going to bother to rinse my brush because they're both going to be on the same one here anyways. A lot of times I would let that dry a bit more so that my colors don't mix, but you can do it however you want to do it. So just kind of go like that. And I do have some more here that I want to show you, just to give you a few more tips and hints, but I thought we'll do these ones kind of start to finish. so you can see how they turn out with whatever it is that you're doing. Okay, so now this one, you can still see the masking tape behind it, but I like the cream color, so to me that's okay. And let's see if we have much paint left on this brush. Not much. I did a good job of not getting too much paint, which is always, you know, the one thing that you want to think about when you're putting your paint out, because a little bit really goes a long ways. I'm going to go sideways here in the middle. You can even kind of cross hatch it this way, like that, which kind of looks kind of cool sometimes. But there we go. We've got a little bit of colored paper, and that works for a background. Now, do we want to add just a touch of orange to that one? I'm not going to, because we have lots of things to do. We're already at 10 minutes. So that is how you can paint it. Like I said, you can do it with different colors. You can do it in a solid color. And if you will notice, look at our yellow here. You can see through it. You can see right there. It says tomorrow. What does it say? It says, oh, it's backwards. Please reuse, see, we're reusing it, and recycle for a better tomorrow. That's what it says under there. So you can see through this tape. The darker color paint, the less you can see through it, obviously. So then, what do you do with it next? Like, it's like, well, that's really plain. Do I really want to, you know, like just have this plain old, you don't have to have this plain old piece of paper. So then you use your stamps. You stamp on it, you draw on it, you doodle on it. And if you draw or doodle with your markers, remember that they're water soluble. So if you put something that's wet over top of them, it's going to smear. But your acrylic paints are not going to smear. So, oh, one other thing I wanted to show you. We had our postage stamp. And here's our little postage stamp guy. And I really did not like this little tail on him. So, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of put a little bit of a rounded bottom there and then press that back. Because I really thought that looked like he had a tail, so I did not like that at all. And that's what you do with your stamps that you're drawing on. You draw them, you stamp them, and then you decide if there's, you know, something you don't like and what is it that you can do to fix it. You can't add to it, but you can take away from it. So let's give him a quick look next to his cousin there, and let's see if it looks better or not, because I don't know if it will. Now that I pushed it back, I'm not going to get that back. When you push it down this hard, you know, I had said that if you heat them, you can get that foam to come back to its normal shape, but when you push it back this hard, you cannot. That's more like if you get a dent in it from a nail or, you know, from your fingernail or something, or if you get a dent from sitting something on it, you can usually use you can use a heat gun for sure. I don't know if you can use a hairdryer on the high setting or not. Okay, so we're going to see how this guy looks without a tail. I can't get him too close because I don't want to stamp on top of where I already stamped. It would be harder to see. Okay, to me, I like that better. I like him without a tail. So, and then you can draw around that, doodle on it, you know, put 2 cents there, whatever. So, but what we're going to do also is we're going to use our stamps on our washi tape. There it is. So we're just going to use our palette. I'm going to turn it this way so it's a little closer to the, so that this is closer to my hard surface, because when you do it this way, there's a long gap between this and your hard surface, and it wants to bend a lot. It's harder to pick up the paint. I'm going to turn it that way. And since we've got yellow, let's do some red. We want some that's going to show up on it. And that's another thing, you just play with your colors. I'm going to put a couple of drops of this on here, about like that, not much at all. And then I am going to use my paintbrush to just kind of spread it out a little bit. because I don't want all that paint to just go right up into my stamp. So I'm going to spread it around so that the paint is a lot thinner where it's sitting, not necessarily thinner like we watered it down. And you can also just use a brush. Just do these squares right here. If you want to just use a brush, you can brush it on like this, using the flat side of your brush, so you don't get too much down on the cardboard. Now this one, they're all close enough together that not much is getting down there. And then you just take your stamps and stamp them out on your washi tape. You can do the same thing all the way across. Also, we're going to just show you how to do it this way. Just want to kind of look at it, make sure it looks like you've got ink on all of them. Just kind of trying to space them approximately the same distance. There we go. Now I can take this, and if I want to, I can put that on my paper just to get it off of my stamp. And then also, usually if I use acrylic paints on my stamp, I put a little bit of water on a paper towel or a napkin, and I do wipe that off a little bit. Now, if you get acrylic paint down between, that's okay, because acrylic, again, is plastic, so that just kind of protects your cardboard a little bit. So, we bought the hole punch. What for? Well, so we could use it because they're nice to have, but also I like to use the hole punch. I punched a bunch of circles, glued them on a piece of cardboard, and it makes a really fun stamp. And you do have circles that are then all the same size. Shall we put it on here? Kind of turn it so that it has a different shape to it. I wonder if I can. Yeah, it did fit. Okay, so there we go. And I'm going to wipe that off. And if you're going to wipe your stamps, they're best to just wipe them. Just have a paper towel right there by you. It's best to do it while the paint is wet, otherwise it's not necessarily going to come off. Okay, then I told you to keep all of your scraps. What do you do with all those scraps? Just take it and cut it into any little kind of bits. You can do, like, if you want to do a bunch of little triangles and you've got a straight piece, you can just go back and forth and make triangles. You can make squares. You can have odd shapes. That one looks like a little bit of a house. You can have little rectangles with different shapes on the bottom, or you can cut this straight and make straight rectangles. I like my shapes to have a little bit of difference to them. Really tall triangles. You can do strips. Just cut a bunch of shapes. Then take a piece of your cardboard and paint it with glue. Once you've painted it with glue, just stick all those shapes all over your cardboard. Actually, what I do is I put glue on there. See that one? Well, hey, what happened with that piece that just came off? More than likely my glue was pretty dry there by the time I put it there. This one, I put the glue all over the whole thing and spread it out. It was getting dry by the time I ended my last ones. Look, one fell off right there too. So what you really need to do is put a little bit of glue and then put some on there. Then put a little bit more glue and put some on there until you get done. You can make these as big as you want them. If you want to make one as big as a card so that you have a background on a card that the whole thing is all done at once, you can do that. And then this one, when I colored it, I painted it because I wanted it to you know, to me that was easier because it was bigger. I'm going to set this aside for a second. You can also take this before it dries too much, and we'll put this on the back side, and you can just pick up what's left with your paper. Didn't get much because it was dry, but if I would have thought of that before it dried. And then, so let's put a little bit, let's put some green on here. So once you get these, and I just want to show you, well, I did already show you how to paint it on, but I'll show you what you're, oh, this is not a very good idea. Green and red do not mix real well, but it is what it is. I've already got it on my brush. So I am just going to paint it on there. I'm just going to do like part of it because we're only doing the tape, so, and then just press it on, give it a little bit of massage, give that just a little bit of time to attach to your thing, and then you've got this background here. So, and you can do them where you really pay attention and do them all the same. If you can do a pattern, you know, you can do all these little bits and then do them as a spiral. You know, it's fun to do them in all different ways. Another way to get a background stamp is, I don't know what I did with my wet paper towel. Okay, well, I have another one here. It's probably right in front of me. Always amazes me how quickly I can lose something. And just wipe that off a little bit. Not a pretty color, that's for sure. Alrighty, so another way to get some background on something is to take just a little piece of paper and I was trying to see if I just had some scrap paper here. Here's a piece. Just take a little piece of paper, and then what you're going to do is take your paper and kind of push it down in the middle, and then just kind of scrunch it up and scrunch it up. This makes a great background stamp. You want all these little scrunches on the top. That's why you kind of grabbed it in the middle. Whoops. Okay, so you just scrunched it up, then just take it, put it in your paint or whatever kind of color you have, and just put it on your page. If you like the way it looks, keep doing it. If you don't like it very well, move it around. You don't want big flat spots. You want more, this is kind of bad because my paint's about gone. Let's put a little bit of paint on here. What color? Let's do green. Okay. I'm going to get another piece of paper because I've really got that one squished quite a bit. So again, just kind of grab it in the middle, squinch it all up. So that you've got lots of different like layers there. And then just kind of turn it a little bit. And it gives you a background. Okay, so now we have this really kind of yucky brown in the middle, and we have just a little bit of background there, and then we've got our stamps on there. So what can we do with that now? Because it's still very plain, still not really done. That's where my paper, that's where my that's where that was. Okay, I'm gonna let this dry just a little bit. So I'm gonna put that aside. grab this one that's not dry. I'm going to show you a couple things that you can do. Another thing that we're going to learn today is water glue. Water glue is what I use instead of Mod Podge, just any kind of container that has a pretty nice sealing lid. I use these types of containers, and when I'm done using it, before I put it away, make sure that your lid doesn't actually leak, but what I do is I flip it over and then I put it away. That gets glue up in here, kind of in these grooves. You can still peel this lid off and you'll see that there'll be dried glue there, but that also helps seal it and makes it a little more airtight. That's how I've always done my water glue, and I've had it last for a really long time without getting all dried up. But I'm going to show you, water glue is 1 part water to 2 parts glue. So you just take your white glue and squash it in there. And what I did was my glue came to about here. And so then I said, okay, half of that is about to here. So I filled it that full with water because I already had that much glue. So then I put in that much water and mixed it together. I don't measure and make sure that it's exact. I just do it approximately twice as much glue as water. And then just mix it with your brush, making sure that you clean your brush when you're done. You don't want to let glue dry on your paintbrush. But that is how you make water glue, and I use that as Mod Podge in place of, because it's not sticky when it's dry. So I did want to show you these two. This one I mixed red, purple, and blue together all at the same time, all wet at the same time, and got this really ugly color. But it's not that ugly, but it's not what I wanted. I wanted bits of each color, and I wasn't thinking. If you can see, this one has a shine to it. This one is very flat. Acrylic paint is normally very flat unless you get a gloss acrylic paint. So after I did both of these exactly the same way, and after they were dry, this one got painted with water glue, and this one did not. See the difference? See the sheen on there? So that is a way, if you say, well, that's really flat and I don't like flat, that is the way you can get some shine to it without having to buy a shiny acrylic paint. And I want to check this because this is the one thing I wanted to know. Is this going to come off okay? Because I do it on parchment, but I'd never done it on plastic bag. And yes, it comes off just fine. Okay, I'll put that back down there though. And let's see if it's worse than this one. It is not. Oh, this one might be just a touch easier, but I don't think so. Okay, so there we go. Let's put those back down. And I'm going to show you some that I've already done. So here are some that are stamped already. And then I want to show you this one here is got a little bit of sheen to it. Let's see. Let's look at it this way. And it's much thinner in consistency. So see, this is exactly the same paint, but this is just purple paint. This is equal parts of purple paint and glue. And it also has just a touch, if you can see, just a touch of sheen. It's what I would call like a well, I don't know. It's not a gloss, but it's, you know, it does have that little bit of sheen to it. So, and it does also, it thins down your paint, sticks just as well. And it also, you know, it just makes your paint thinner instead of just watering your paint down. So once you've got them all stamped and they've dried, then you can draw around them. You can draw around them with a marker. You can draw around them with a pen and, you know, make little marks and designs. This one was done with a pen, and I had done the heart with a marker and then a pen because I didn't like the way the marker looked. But when I painted water glue on it, which I did water glue this, and you can see the little bit of sheen, when I put the water glue on it, the pen smeared, the marker smeared. Why? Because it's a water marker. It's a kid's washable marker. And so when you put water and glue, so anything wet, on top of that marker, then it smears it. So what I should have done if I wanted to use marker was make my color. I could still stamp all of my paint stamps, then put my water glue on, then put the marker on top of that, so that it doesn't smear when you put the water glue on it. And it will still write on top of the water glue. But then it won't be all smeared. Just like that. So that's what you do then. Once you get them stamped, you doodle on them. And so you can just go ahead and just kind of be very messy about it. That looks kind of fun. Be careful not to try and be too perfect. You want it to look messy, I guess is what I want to say. Or if you want to be really super neat, you can do that too. Maybe go just inside your color or just outside your color or right on the edge if you want to do it that way. Remembering that if you stamped off onto the plastic, that part you don't have to doodle on. And then you can just do any kind of, you could do little circles in the middle of these. Whoops. Circle in the middle of there. The one thing I like to do with when I have the stamped circle, I like to do a swirl. And again, start in the middle, swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Don't try and make it perfect. At least I can't, because if I try and do it perfect, it's going to drive me crazy that it was not. But if I do it with a nice little, you know, bit of controlled sloppiness maybe. But there you go, you get your doodles. You can come out here and doodle with your pen. You can use a black pen and a blue pen and a red pen if you have them. Most of us have at least black and blue. But doodling on it just gives it a little bit more interest, kind of fills it in. And you can, you know, the sky is the limit with what you're doing with these. And then once you get that all done, you can just take your water glue and just paint it right on there. Now, one thing, and actually it didn't do it when I just did those. A lot of times your masking tape will curl. And the way that it winds up curling is, I'm going to put, because if I do the whole thing, then later on when it dries, I can use marker on top too if I want. But I can still use the pen. That is the nice thing about this, is you can still write on top of it. I'm doing the whole thing to see if it will do, because I wanted to show you so that if it happens to you, you're not like, oh my gosh, this is never going to work. Okay, got that there. And make sure that I rinse my brush right away. Okay, you can kind of see it. I think this is starting to dome up. It's curling like this, okay? Can you see that? It's okay. When it dries, it will go back down. And a lot of times what I do, especially if it's doming here, but it's not doing it there, and sometimes it'll get a little crease in it or something because it domes and it domes and it doesn't. So I just take the ends of my plastic bag and just kind of pull on them. At the end of each, just give it a little bit of a, you're just kind of coaxing it. Let the whole thing dome up and dry the same. And like I said, this will dry. Every one of these, because the paint did it and the glue did it, but the paint did it first. But see how flat they are? They will dry just perfectly flat when they're dry. And you can even push them down. But this is how, I mean, look at how, see how curled up that is now? And that's just what it does. And that's okay. You haven't ruined anything. You haven't done anything wrong. It'll flatten back out when it dries. And once it is completely dry, if it's not flattened, you can just go ahead and flatten it. I haven't had that happen yet, but maybe it could happen. So that is our washi tape. And we have our other stamps. And I wanted to do one. I'm going to move this aside for a second. I wanted to do one of these with our word stamps. And I wanted to try stamping on top of it. All right, if I'm going to stamp on top of it, I can't clear coat it. I have to remember that. I can't put the thing on it unless I had done that first. So maybe we will just use paint. So on the red, what if we put some, let's do maybe blue. And I think what I'm going to do, I think I'm going to paint it on because that's a pretty big stamp. So if I want to paint it on, I can use this side. And we don't need a ton. After you wash your brushes, smooth them out flat like this and just let them sit flat to dry. So that, you don't want to leave them all messy after you've washed them off. They'll last a lot longer that way. So we've got our masking tape handle on there that I should try to do last week. And this might get down into the letters, which won't make a difference so long as I don't push really hard on my stamp to push those areas down. So I wanted to see how our words worked with the paint. I'm going to put it right here in the middle. Once it's down, it's down. Don't move it, just like any other stamp, any other ink or paint. And I am not pushing hard. I am just giving that paint a little bit of time to get off of the stamp and onto the washi. And let's see what it looks like. Ah, cool. Looks pretty cool. I like that. So we'll put maybe one here and one here. And then we'll put a couple hopes between them. I don't remember if we did both of these. If we tried stamping both of them on the last video or not. That's why I wanted to just come back and kind of make sure I covered the few things that I said I was going to do, like the background stamp. And I wanted to use them with paint so you could see how they work with paint. Again, just give it a bit of a massage. And lift. Cool. One more time. And then maybe we'll do the hope in purple. Might have already said that. And you don't need your paint to be super thick. You're going to make sure you have paint on the whole thing, but nice and thin is good. If you make it really thick, it will just be bloppy on whatever you're stamping it onto. I'm just stamping it at the bottom of my mat here. Oh yeah. Okay, so I got one extra one. 2. So you can get about 3. Well, no, the third one is pretty light. I definitely want this to be clean. because I like it, and I will definitely use it again. So there we go. Like I said, what's down inside doesn't really make a difference. You don't want to fill that and then leave it full of paint, because then what will happen is if that dries and it's as deep as your, comes up to the top of your stamp, you'll have to try and push it out, push it back again, just like you did when you made the stamp, or you might even have to pull it out of there. I'm not sure, because I haven't had that happen, but it could happen. See, what I'm saying is, if there's a hole, there's a little bit of paint right in there, so I could even maybe, when I'm all done, might be good to go ahead and kind of try and pull that out of there. This is a clean brush. Well, it was clean before I started this, so that goes to show you that there is. So, but you just don't want those grooves to fill up with paint and dry that way, because otherwise it might fill that in, and that paint will stamp right along with your foam. Okay, let's try Hope. So anyways, this is just a really fun way to make your own tape. A lot of times I make this with what they call paper tape. It's a medical tape, paper tape. You get it in the medical department at the Dollar Tree or Walmart. I checked it at Walmart. It was like $4. To me, that wasn't worth $4. But I don't know if this purple will be dark enough. And that's a really nice one to use too. That's even thinner, so it's more see-through, and it doesn't quite have the texture that the masking tape has, but they have not had it at the Dollar Tree, which is one of those things where I think now, I want to make sure I didn't have it upside down, there are different things that I think stores are having a hard time getting a hold of. But if you go to the Dollar Tree to get the masking tape and they have paper tape, and it does say paper tape on it. Alrighty, that's a little bit disappointing because it's not showing up much on the red, but that's okay, because what I can do is I can draw and doodle around it, and then it will show up a little bit better. So I'm going to go ahead and do the other one too. And then when you do your doodling, these are fun things to take to your chair in the evenings and just sit with your pen and just sit and doodle on it. And you don't even have to stamp on it first. You can just doodle right on the washi all itself. And make your own tape that way. I need to wipe this off quickly. If you have a stamp that you really like, especially if you're putting acrylic paint on it. I'm not, ink doesn't really bother me that much, but if you have one you really like, make sure you wipe it off as soon as you're done. So there is the Hope, but it is very hard to see. There you can kind of see it. Like I said, I'll just doodle around that, and then it will be noticeable. And I'm going to just move that out of my way and put some of this on here. I could also put my stamps in it and do a bunch of stamping on this page, but there's no point in wasting the paint that you paid good money for. And the other nice thing is, then later on, when let's say you're going to make a card for somebody, or you're working on a journal and you need some pages to put in that journal, you've already got some things done up. You want to make some flowers, and you want the paper to be colored. It's already set to go, and you can do it one side and then do the other. I'm going to grab the blue too while I'm at it. I'm just kind of cleaning off my palette here. And you don't have to do it thin lines like this. You can do it however you want to. But why not use what you've got when you've got it, especially when you never know when you're going to need a piece of paper. maybe in a hurry. Maybe somebody's folding something on YouTube and they tell you you need a 6x6, so you cut yourself a piece of paper, but you don't want it to be plain white. And like I said, you can always turn it over and just start on the other side when you're done. You're putting it on so thinly that it's not going to really soak through. So there we go. Now we got to start on that side. I think that piece is really, really pretty. All right, so then the very last thing I was going to show you was how to do the water paint like this, or the glue paint. And you don't need to do these things ahead of time. I used to make them up in little jugs, and you can do that if you think you're going to use a lot, but try it a few times first to find out if you're going to use it a lot or not. So let's do a little bit. Where's the... Okay. So here's this one, still drying. And let's put a little bit of green on here. Let's put some in the middle where that ugly spot is. So, okay, that green is on the other side. I don't want to put my paint on top of dry paint, because what will happen is you'll get these little bits, hard bits in, because it'll kind of break off once you get it wet again on your plastic. So we're just going to take a drip of paint. Basically the same size drip of glue. That's got a bubble in it, so that's about the same amount. Again, it does not have to be exact. And just mix them together. And it just makes your paint a little bit of a lighter color, gives it a little bit of shine. And it's just fun, which is the whole thing that creating is supposed to be all about. It's supposed to just be fun. We're not here necessarily to create a masterpiece that's going to last a million years, because maybe you might be a great artist. I am not. I don't really expect that, you know, I'm going to have anything that a million years from now, everybody's going to be like, wow, you know. And so it doesn't have to last that long. It doesn't have to be that type of product. I really just like to use things that I make myself and see what happens. So there we go. Now we have got, and make sure that at that point, get your brush right in the water when you're done. So there we go. Now that is going to, see how see-through that is? You can see everything else to it. It will have a little bit of sheen. It's shinier now than it will be when it dries. Did we put it on top of here? We put water glue on top of there. That's right. So it just, this one we added the color to. Basically, they'll look about the same. That will be a little shinier than this will. So that is today's projects. And like I said, you can go through and you can doodle on those and just have a really good time. Then you've got them for later on. Don't forget paper. Don't forget that you can adjust your stamps if you don't like the way that they look. And don't forget background stamps, which I don't know where my background stamp went. And hole punch stamps. Love these. These are my favorite because I like to doodle. I like to do the little swirl inside. Actually, it's fun to do the little swirl inside the squares also. But my background stamp is around here somewhere. I just don't know where. So don't forget. Take all of your little bits, glue them onto a piece of cardboard, and then you will have a stamp that will make different shapes to fill in areas. There it is. Don't forget background stamps. And don't put two colors that don't go together on there so that you wind up with a really ugly color. So thank you very much for stopping by. I really do appreciate it. I'm going to show you now what we need for next week. And So this is what we're going to get for next week. Next week, we are going to spend, let's see where my book is. We're going to spend $4.75 for next week. So we had $14.50 in our bank. So we're saving $2.75 out of our $7.50, which means that we will now have $17.25 in our bank. So, see, you don't need a whole lot to craft. We're only budgeting $7.50 a week, and we're already saving almost. We're getting close to $20. So for next week, we are going to need sandpaper or a sanding block. Another one of those things that they did not have any sanding paper at the Dollar Tree. They usually do or used to. So I got a sanding block. We just want some kind of sandpaper. And remember that if you have any of these things at home, you don't need to buy whatever it is that you have. Take that money, set it aside for something else at some other point in time. So we are going to need, trying to make sure that I don't forget anything, make sure I have it all here. We need a sanding block. We need a plastic ruler. I got this at my sister's dollar store. She has a dollar store, and I had gone there. But you can get plastic rulers at the Dollar Tree, or also you can get them at Walmart. I think they're 88 cents at Walmart. So we need a plastic ruler, stickers that you like, just because. And then a flower book. So this is one of the books that I got for $1 at my Salvation Army store, but I'm going to count it as $1. Whoa! I'm going to count it as $1 so that I think everybody can probably get a used book for $1. But you just want a book that has some flowers. Now that'll be a beautiful page to do something else with. Maybe make an envelope or something. But see, even here you can cut around these flowers. You want something that has, you know, things that you can use that are a little bit smaller. And, you know, if you have some that are a little bit bigger, that's great too. You know, go for both, you know, big and little. Just make sure that your whole book is not just pages of a full page of flowers. They're beautiful, but they're hard to work with. You want things that are smaller that you can cut around this and use that on a project, whereas you're not going to use a whole page, and sometimes if you just cut off part of it, it looks kind of funny. So we want a flower book that has some smaller flower pictures in it that we can cut around them. So that's a very beautiful picture, but more like this one. See, you can cut around this. And I'm not a huge fan of cutting out the squares, but if you like to do that, you know, this one right here would make a nice journaling card if you make journals. So it's about the right size, a little bit wide, but around the corners, and, you know, that's very pretty for that. This would be pretty on the front of a card. So, you know, you have to look at them that way. Don't just look at just how beautiful the big pictures are. Look at the small pictures that you can get. Okay, so we are going to spend $4.75 because I counted this as $1, 2, 3, 4, and my quarters $4.75. That's what we're going to spend for next week, and that's what we need for next week. We'll also need our pliers, and we will need, oh, the other thing is, when I was getting the ruler, I ran out of my aluminum foil this week. If you have aluminum foil, wax paper, whatever, that has these little serrated edges on it, those are nice things to keep for crafting also. Because you can draw along the edge of them. It kind of gives you a little bumpy line and stuff like that. You can use them to rip. So these are really nice to have also if you want to save one of those. So that's what we're going to need. And there is today's project. I really like the way that this one is turning out. That's going to be the next one I doodle on. And oh, can you see? It's already starting. It's not completely dry, but it's already starting to lay down. See, it's not way puffed up like it was. So I think that is what I wanted to tell you. I think that's everything. So thanks again. I really do appreciate you. If you get a chance, Leave a thumbs up if you don't mind, if you like the video. Watch a video once in a while. I really do appreciate that too. Thank you again for stopping by. I hope that you all have an outstanding day. Bye-bye.